Welcome to Parks and Recognize. Thank you for helping us celebrate and recognize the remarkable Parks and Rec pros who foster community spirit, inspire engagement, and ensure that everyone has equal access to parks and wellness activities in their communities. In each episode, we'll sit down with passionate Parks and Recreation professionals to explore the crucial work they do, their journey in the Parks and Rec world, and the passion that drives them to do what they do. I'm your host, Atismo Senipur, VP of Marketing at Xplor Recreation. And today, I'm joined by the legendary AJ McCage of Henrico County, Virginia. Welcome, AJ. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate the title, too. I'm going to have to change my little desk plate to say legendary.
As you are. I'll get that desk plate over to you. I'll ship it first thing tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well, since this interview is all about getting to know you, and I think a great way to kick things off is to kick off with an icebreaker question.
All right.
If you could choose any superpower, AJ McCage, what would it be?
Any superpower. I feel like my first thought would, and then this is so challenging because now my brain is spiraling. My first thought would probably be like mind reading, but knowing myself, I would get overwhelmed with that 100%, even though I'm asking to do that. So maybe flying superpower, or like maybe like the green thumb and being able to magically grow plants. That's the idea.
That's a fun one. That last one, I would definitely go with flying myself. I would never want to know what other people are thinking at all times. That'd be too scary.
Fair. I got you.
Yeah. But green thumb, I love that.
Like Troll in Central Park. Have you ever watched that movie?
I have not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an older like cartoon, so very cute.
Amazing. I do love to garden, so that'd be a good power to have.
Okay.
Well, I personally am fortunate enough to have met you through several VRPS engagements, but for the folks that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Where do you do it? Who are you?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the professional side, again, my name is AJ McCage, and I am a recreational therapist by trade and have been for a little over 10 years now. I got my education from two different places, one being Radford University in therapeutic recreation, and then more recently from Clemson University with my master's in youth development and leadership. I am fortunate enough to have had many different types of workplace experiences. I have found that I don't really stay in one spot, but I stay enough to do programming and to fix some things. But for Henrico County, Henrico, Virginia, I am their therapeutic recreation coordinator, and I oversee all therapeutic recreation, TR programming, community engagement that falls within that realm, and then any inclusion services. So we offer a variety of programming, fitness, history related, park mobile experiences, classroom-based programs, summer camps. And when anybody is looking to register for a program, they have an option for inclusion services. And that's where I kind of come into play. So I help facilitate a modification plan, and I work with our programmers and the families on a one-to-one basis to figure out how we can modify programs for their needs.
That's incredible, and it's such an important role that you have in helping make Parks and Rec more accessible to folks throughout our community. So big thank you for the important work that you do. And you mentioned you've been in Parks and Rec for about a decade now. What brought you to your career in Parks and Rec?
Yeah, so to be fair, I am right at 8 years. A few of my first years as a recreational therapist, I dabbled in the world of long-term care. And so I was managing recreation departments within nursing facilities, assisted living communities, dementia care units, and I got incredibly burnt out really, really quickly. And if anybody knows that life, it's a very different environment. And the expectation is it just is every day, every year, just because the residents who live there, they deserve those services. And so I found myself being really young in my career and not knowing what I wanted exactly, but knowing I wanted to use therapeutic rec, and then found Parks and Recreation. And it actually took me 3 tries to get into the department. So I hold it over their heads now because I'm like, look at all the things I'm doing. But it took me so long to get in. And I really think it was just us being able to trust the services that we could both give. And yeah, I kind of got into therapeutic recreation because of an advisor at school who just reached out to me on a whim. I thought I wanted to do teaching and then became very overwhelmed with the requirements of all the schooling. And then I was like, nah, bump that. Like, let's do something else. And a story that I had told an advisor was an experience that I went through with my mom when she was going through chemotherapy. And during her trials with that, I remember being in a room and sitting down next to her and then all these other people, and there was, kids in that unit, and just thinking like, wow, if I were working here, what would I do differently for the people going through this experience? And I shared that story with the advisor, and he was like, well, have you ever heard of rec therapy? And I was like, nope. And that's kind of how the journey started. So kudos to Dr. Newman.
That's amazing. Definitely kudos to Dr. Newman. And because of Dr. Newman, here you are today having such a big impact.
Here we are.
In the short time that I've gotten to know you, I've witnessed firsthand the impact that you've had on the VRPS community through the volunteering that you've done through the association. I'm sure there are plenty of things that you're proud of, as you should be, through the work you've done, the volunteer work you've done there. But between the volunteer work you've done and your role in therapeutic rec, what are a couple really big highlights of your career, things that make you proud and what made them so special?
Absolutely. And I always appreciate when people ask me this question because when you're working in different communities, you don't always get to share the story of what you did before you got there, right? And yes, so by nature, I am always going to be an advocate for people with disabilities. And it's a strong passion of mine that I think I've put into many different aspects of my life just naturally because I care about it. And some of the biggest things that I have done within my career as a recreational therapist have been developing therapeutic recreation programs in every community I've ever worked in. And so I say every community because it's been 3, so it's more than one. But within Colonial Heights, Recreation and Parks, Hopewell, and then within Henrico, it has just been a really big driving force for me. One, because you get to create those programs that naturally wouldn't be designed for people with disabilities. And then 2, you get to have this really incredible educational moment with it because inevitably you're involving other people in your process. And the more we can create awareness towards these taboo topics, then it makes people feel more comfortable. And then they realize, hey, I can do this. And adapting programming isn't that hard. And so the TR development in my mind is just one of the biggest lights in my life. And those programs are still operating and the connections that were made are still there, which is awesome. Um, and then the other part is being able to work with young people. And I say young, meaning high school and college. Um, I feel like most people wouldn't say that, but I love that population because you get this chance to leave an impact on them, which will inevitably change the course of how they look at life after a really good experience. I have been fortunate enough that in my entire career, I've been a part of summer camps and just, camp related programming. And I've worked with all different ages of people. And I have found that through some of my efforts, I've had students or staff members change their life trajectories because of the experience. People who went into special education, people who have gone into adapting programs naturally. And I just think that that's just such an incredible compliment without being told, hey, you did this for me, but I'm changing a part of my life to showcase what I've learned. So yes, two of my biggest things.
That's so special. Um, I have a special place in my heart for professions that involve supporting folks with special needs. My partner is an inclusion teacher, and that
Okay,
impact,
yeah.
the impact on just helping folks live everyday lives and have everyday experiences, I think is just so incredible. Um, and it means so much to the parents as well. I'm sure that they're very grateful for all the programming you do and all the work that you do to support them. Um,
Thank you.
One other thing I think that you deserve a lot of credit for and a lot of shine for is just everything you've done as part of VRPS and other associations that you're part of. Any highlights that you care to share with folks about the
Mhm.
volunteer work you do?
Yeah. So I absolutely love VRPS. So VRPS is the Virginia Recreation and Park Society. And through their efforts, it has really made me such a better professional. And I think that that's why I believe in it, because of the value that I've seen come out of it. And within VRPS, I have done everything from just volunteering for my service area, for leading resource groups, for most recently putting on a statewide conference, which was incredible. But I just deeply believe in development of other professionals, and I don't think there's a reason to recreate the wheel if we have a tool and a resource that can connect people with that information sharing. And so VRPS to me has done a lot for my career, and I think that no matter where I move forward from this, my involvement with VRPS has to stay the same because it's just guided me through a lot of things. I've also participated in a few different efforts through NRPA, which always grateful, and I didn't know about half of the things that they produce until the last like 3 years, which has been really overwhelming, but then really cool in the same breath because they do so much. And then, of course, WePAR, Women in Parks and Recreation. I was a part of their leadership team that helped put on their first conference here in Norfolk. And that was an incredible experience as well. But it's just the connections that you build, it's invaluable. And if people don't utilize it, I truly think that they're missing out on an experience.
That's incredible. It's incredible. And it's very clear that community has a special place in your heart. And
Oh,
I'm a firm
definitely.
believer, yeah, and I'm a firm believer that Parks and Rec professionals are the heartbeats of our communities. And you show that through the work you do in your day-to-day job, but also the work you do through all these associations. So that's really special. But I guess what does community ultimately mean to you, AJ?
Yeah. That's a super loaded question. I feel like at any given point I could probably answer it differently. Um, but I think the overall thought of community is just the opportunity to change lives. It's from how I involve my kids in things, how I think about I'm spending my own spare time. It's how I think about building meaningful connections, and I just think that without it, I don't know if I would have reached this platform that I'm on now or been able to engage in so much and like learn about myself and like learn what I value over time and just yeah, like if another part of it is if I take the effort to involve my kids in the community, then essentially they may learn to love it as well over time because then they find their niche within it. And so it's an opportunity. And I fully take advantage of those opportunities.
You certainly do take advantage of those opportunities, and it very much shows through all the hard work that you do and just how deeply involved you are in the community and respected in the community. You just do so much. And I got to witness that at the LTI event that you recently put on in Blue Mountain, and it was incredible just to see all that hard work of yours and everybody else who volunteered to put that event on. It was truly something special, and glad that we could have a hand in being there and helping
Yes.
support.
I was gonna say I appreciate the sponsorship too. So it's always a win-win in my eyes.
I mean, through this conversation, I'm sure a lot of people are going to realize that you spend a lot of time supporting your community, whether it's through volunteer work or your day job, so to speak. When you aren't impacting your community on a regular basis, what can we expect you to be doing in that little spare time that you have?
Yeah. Oh, that's a loaded one too. I think it just depends on the mood my kids put me in. But no, all jokes aside, I think right now in life we are navigating a really interesting moment. My family and I, one, we have three kids right now, and we're a lovely blended family. And so I am stepmom to two kids, but have been raising them for a while now. And so I think trying to figure out how we do all of this. It's like such a loaded thing, but navigating motherhood on my own with my own son, and then navigating it with children that I've deeply connected to, and just know that life could be better for everyone in moments. And I think right now we're just, like I said, we're just figuring it out. And my partner, he is a dual paramedic firefighter, so he's just as motivated in his work life, and is going through his own school program right now. So I feel like it's like a very healthy competition of like, when he does something, I want to do something, and then vice versa.
Wow.
And yeah, so the kid piece is a component, and trying to figure out how I can gracefully involve them in things, but then also seek my own interests out of it. Um, I joke by saying I don't have hobbies. I just learn new things because my kids really want to experience something, and I have no earthly idea what the hell I'm doing half the time. But like, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn how to knit because my daughter wants to knit, so we're gonna learn it. And so now I'm making a scarf, you know. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out what this part of my life looks like. While balancing some like out of work passions I have.
Well,
Yeah, it's a lot.
it's incredible seeing a mama three whose partner is also working crazy hours and involved
Yes.
in schooling to see you as a family um, manage life and live life. I love seeing your Instagram stories and all that with the
Thank
kids.
you.
But to be doing all that you're doing and having such an impact in the Parks and Rec community too, it's really impressive. You must be a master of managing and organizing your time.
I think we'll just say that for now. We're still trying to figure out that balance as well. And I I definitely, like, one of my biggest goals, I'd say within the next 5 years, I gave myself until I was 35, was to either have gotten accepted into a doctoral program or apply to one. And so my next thing is trying to figure out how I can blend academics and parks and recreation. So I really want to teach at a college level, but I want to stay in programming to some capacity so that my potential students can see firsthand how you develop things, and have like real life experiences with it. But in my mind, I don't see that as like a work adventure. That's like a very personal, like, I want to go to school because I just enjoy the aspect of it. And so, I don't know, maybe like coming back to reality sometimes and finding a balance is always key, because I have a hard time with that.
Well, it doesn't show one bit, and I look forward to seeing that goal come to a reality, as I'm sure it will. Just
Thank
having
you.
gotten to know you over the past year here. Um, Last question for you. If you have any advice you can share to other Parks and Rec professionals, what would it be? One piece of advice.
Yeah. One piece of advice. I would say that if you want an experience, then you have to fully rely on your advocacy to create that. Um, I think that I live vicariously through the efforts that I put into my kids and my community, because I know what it feels like to have people taken away from you who really wanted that experience. And so, my parents had passed, my mom passed when I was in high school, and navigating the world in that retrospect, like really put things into perspective of just working hard because she didn't get to have things, you know? And then I had lost my dad a couple years ago to COVID, and he was an incredibly accomplished person, but he was accomplished because he advocated for himself. And yeah, I would just say that if you want any part of it, then to make it a priority and that there is time if you make time for it. So
That's really incredible advice, AJ. And as I've mentioned before, I'm sure your parents would be very proud of all your accomplishments and the ones to
thank
come.
you.
Well,
Yes. Yes.
this has been a pleasure as always, getting time with you, and you're an absolute star and such an inspiration. Grateful to know you, grateful to call you a friend, and thank you for all that you do for your community and extended community. Uh, Thank you for joining us today. It's just an absolute pleasure, and hope that everybody's listening in got extreme value from this as I did.
Thank you. Well, hopefully the next time I see you, we're riding roller coasters again. So I look
Uh,
forward to that.
I really hope so. We'll see.
All right, boss. Thank you so much.
Thank you.